Rayburn Watley sat and watched his wife Jolynn making a scene on the community hall dance floor. Everybody was watching her. For 6 years, he had been dreading the possibility that this night might come. Of course, it was a lot to ask. Jolynn was a beautiful, vibrant woman. For 6 years, their social life was restricted to things that they could do together or with their 2 boys. There were no parties, no social gatherings, and no intermingling with friends or acquaintances. To be honest, there were very few friends with whom to socialize. Rayburn Watley had several reasons for insisting on this strange arrangement. First of all, he was extremely jealous, and Jolynn was a magnet for sleazy guys. She was different from the girls back home in most ways. She knew how to groom herself and dress in the latest styles. She was educated and refined, but still fun and frisky. She was also a big flirt. That was where the problem came in. Why in the world would a jealous man marry a woman who enjoyed teasing and flirting with every man she meets? Rayburn kept a tight leash on his wife. Their son, Brian, had just turned 5, and Tyson was almost 4. Taking care of them and the household was pretty much a full-time job. Rayburn tried to make things easier by taking everybody out as often as he could. He constantly brings gifts home for his wife, trinkets, flowers, and sweets. He read in a magazine once that doing things like this would keep the little woman content. That was all that he wanted. The dance tonight was a company affair. Rayburn was employed by a small, family-owned construction firm. He worked hard and kept to himself so that there would be no problems. Yes, problems. That was the second reason for his peculiar insistence on not attending social functions. He was born and raised in Rockingham County, Virginia. It was in the far western part of the state, and if you went a half-mile further, you would be in West Virginia. He had 3 brothers and a sister and missed them dearly. His oldest brother, Thompson, was presently incarcerated. His sister, Nadine, and 2 younger brothers, Grayson and Fletcher, still lived in the area. He hadn't seen any of them in over 6 years since he was forced to leave, which brings us back around to that second reason. Thompson was in prison for beating a man so badly that he spent 2 months in the hospital. Rayburn was living and working 2 states away from home for the same reason. Thompson and Rayburn were both hot-headed and fought like banshees when they were aggravated. When the first punch was thrown, neither one of them felt any pain or anything that could be called mercy after that. The only way that they could be stopped was by restraining them physically. Nadine was the same way, but seemed to control it a little better. The 2 younger brothers were pretty ordinary. Everybody used to tease them about having a different father, which their mother didn't appreciate. Rayburn's mother lived with Nadine, who was married to a long-haul truck driver. He didn't make it home too often, and most people understood why. Both Virginia and West Virginia authorities were waiting for Rayburn to return home so that they could grab him. It wouldn't matter too much which one of them got lucky. Either way, he would end up just like Thompson. Rayburn sat quietly at the back of the room, watching his wife. Jolynn was dancing and joking with all the men, married and single. She was a flirt and was enjoying every minute of her free time. It had been far too long. She missed parties and dances and having fun. She was glad that Rayburn had brought her, but upset with him for not doing it more often. She was in overdrive, making up for lost time. It was a good night for Jolynn. As the night went on, things got a little looser. Rayburn watched as the guys started to get a little touchy-feely with his wife. They seemed to be testing the limits that they could go with her. Most of the time, she kept them in check and was still good-natured about it. Most of the time. Benny Cordetti was one of the co-owners of Bright Bill Enterprises. He was a loud, arrogant SOB that Rayburn disliked but tolerated because he was the boss. It was important to make a living and also to keep a low profile. As the night was winding down, Benny started to get a little more creative and adventurous with his hands. It was a slow dance, and Benny had both of his hands cupping Jolynn's back. She wasn't protesting and simply continued to dance as if nothing was happening. Rayburn was squeezing the empty long-neck bottle as hard as he could, but it just would not break. As Rayburn jumped up, he threw the bottle across the room directly toward his boss. Luckily, he hit Cordetti on the shoulder instead of Jolynn. The force was enough to cause the big man to drop to one knee and start cursing. Jolynn turned just in time to see her husband grab her partner and start forcing him across the room. He was getting into position to start wailing about the jerk who dared to paw his wife, but never made it. 3 guys grabbed Rayburn and pulled the 2 men apart. "What the hell are you doing, you idiot?" Cordetti was screaming as he got up off the floor. "You touch my wife again, you fat jerk, and I'll tear your head off." "We were just dancing. We were dancing all night. A lot of guys were dancing with her." "Yeah, but none of them were feeling up her back while they were doing it. I had no trouble letting people dance with her, but I will not let it go further than that. You crossed the line." "You are nuts, Rayburn. You are nuts and you're drunk. And just to top it off, you are fired also. Stop in tomorrow and get your last check. Throw this bum out." Jolynn was just standing there with her mouth open. She had never seen her husband like that. She had no idea what brought all this on. Her picture of him up to this point was that of a caring, loving husband. She had noticed that he got a little upset when she flirted, but never anything like this. Not in 6 years. Rayburn looked at his wife for some type of support, but saw none as he was escorted out. 10 minutes later, he was home. He paid the babysitter and plopped down on the sofa. He wasn't drunk, he knew better, and he rationed out the drinks over the night. He was sitting in the dark living room. The only light came from the kitchen. He knew that somebody had given his wife a ride home when he heard the car door slam. He didn't bother looking to see who it was. Was it Benny? "Well, thanks for making that a night to remember. I have never been so humiliated. Thanks a bunch, Rayburn." She tossed her wrap on the chair and noticed that she got no reply from her husband. "Did you hear me? Are you awake or are you so damn drunk you can't think straight?" "I am fine. I see you made it home all right." "No thanks to you," she answered. Rayburn didn't feel like arguing with her. He was sitting here because he didn't want to be in bed when she got home if she got home. "By the way, I got your job back for you. You go back tomorrow like normal." "What the hell did you do? Did you have intimacy with him so that he would give me my job back?" As soon as the words left his mouth, he regretted saying them, but it was too late. "No, damn it. I gave him a BJ so that he would give you your job back. I had intimacy with him because I wanted to," she answered. Jolynn was steaming mad as she slammed the bedroom door. Her words hurt him more than anything else had in his entire life. He could tell that she was furious, but she had no idea of the demon that she had let loose. Rayburn spent the night sleeping in his truck. After grabbing some breakfast, Rayburn waited in the company lot for the payroll office to open. Waiting was bad because it gave him time to think. He replayed the events of the previous night over and over. He always stopped when he got to Jolynn's confession or whatever it was. He watched as Benny Cordetti arrived in his black Cadillac. Hell, nobody drives them anymore. Finally, when he felt that everything should be up and running, he went in. The girl in payroll seemed hesitant to make out a check for him, but eventually did. He signed a few termination forms concerning medical crap and tax info before leaving. Rayburn breathed a sigh of relief as he walked out, but he was too late. "Hey, Rayburn, what the hell is going on?" In the daylight, Benny looked even bigger and pudgier. "Didn't you old lady tell you? Everything is okay. I unfired you." Rayburn waited as he walked towards him. Several of the workers stopped what they were doing and stared their way. "I am sorry about all the misunderstanding, Rayburn. I am sure that things will be fine from now on. We are all looking forward to you and your wife being at more of our parties." Benny Cordetti looked at Rayburn Watley with a big smirk on his face, and that was a mistake. Benny was a foot taller than Rayburn and had him by at least 60 pounds. None of that made a difference. The big man stood on his feet for longer than Rayburn had expected. Finally, Rayburn felt, or rather heard, a few ribs crack. That sent Benny to one knee. A steel-toed shoe quickly broke the kneecap that was in the front, dropping him to the ground. Benny's exposed gonads were the next target, and when he rolled on his back for protection, Rayburn was immediately on his chest. Most of the blows from there on fell on Benny's face. One that missed broke a collarbone. A sudden pain in his right hand caused Rayburn to start using his left. Cordetti's face was a bloody mess by the time several of the workers pulled Rayburn from the beaten body. 2 of them ended up on the ground, and then they all let him go as he walked to his truck. A few of the men were helping Coretti, but most of them were watching Rayburn in awe. None of them had ever witnessed a spectacle like that. Brian and Tyson were playing in the backyard when he got home. Rayburn opened the door and whistled. In no time, the 2 boys were in the truck. Rayburn watched in the rearview mirror as Jolynn stood on the back porch, yelling and waving her arms. An hour later, they were on Interstate 81 going south. The boys were eager for lunch at Mickey D's, but started to ask about their mother. Rayburn tried to change the subject by telling them about the good times that they were going to have at Aunt Nadine's. Rayburn stopped by to see Nadine, who sent him directly over to Fletcher's place. He had just gotten married and rented a house that was twice as big as he needed to make his new bride happy. She had a 4-year-old son from a previous marriage, so that would work out well. Fletcher and Grayson were down in Arlington working. They usually left Monday morning and came back Friday night. It was not the best situation, but it was good, steady work. Nadine and Fletcher's wife, Garnet, spent most of the evening with Rayburn. Nadine had plenty of free time, so she was going to go up to Pennsylvania and get all of the boys' clothing and toys. Rayburn laughed when she volunteered as quickly as she did. If anybody could handle Jolynn, it was Nadine. She was mean, hard, and nasty as hell. Rayburn never could understand how she got a man to marry her. He figured she must have scared him into it, or else he had a wooden leg and couldn't run away. She wasn't amused when he mentioned it. Nadine insisted that Roger married her for her looks and pleasant personality. Then she would always burst out laughing at her own joke. She left at first light and arrived at the house by lunch. "Who the hell are you?" Jolynn was still not dressed. It was obvious that she had been crying. "I hate to say it, but in this case it is true. I am your worst nightmare." "Oh, crap! Now what? I can't take much more of this." Nadine watched as Jolynn slowly walked into the living room and fell onto the sofa. "I am Nadine, Rayburn's older sister. I promise not to hurt you, but I will not put up with any nonsense. Do you understand?" "No, I don't understand. You are in my house and you are not the boss of me. As long as you are in my house, I will do and say what the hell I like. I don't care if you like it or not." All of a sudden, Nadine knew why Rayburn had married this woman. She looked like a Barbie doll, but she had balls. What she couldn't understand was how come she and Rayburn hadn't beaten themselves to death over the last 6 years. If any woman had talked to Rayburn like that, he would have punched her clock, female or not. From the looks of things, Rayburn had never given this one an attitude adjustment. "Jolynn, do you have anything we can eat for lunch? I didn't get any breakfast today." "Yeah. Come on in the kitchen. I can rustle something up quick. Do you want coffee?" "I'd rather have a Coke if you got one." Neither woman talked for a few minutes. Nadine sat, and Jolynn served and then sat. "Where the hell is my husband?" Jolynn asked. "Why do you care?" "He is my husband and he has my kids." "Where are my kids?" Jolynn questioned. "With your husband. They are safe and having a good time." "Where, damn it? This is my house. Quit playing cutesy little word games with me." "They are home in Rockingham County." "Why?" Jolynn asked. "Because if he stayed, he would probably kill you." "Why the hell would he want to kill me?" Jolynn asked. "Because you cheated on him. That is something no Watley man will stand for. Hell, I can't figure out why you are here now." "Oh, crap. I knew I screwed up the minute I said that," Jolynn answered. "Do you want to explain that?" "Do you want another Coke?" Jolynn asked. "No, but I'll have some coffee now." Jolynn pours 2 cups of coffee. Nadine waved off the cream. When I came home from that damn party, I told Rayburn that his boss relented and that he still had his job. When Rayburn made some smart remark about me with his boss so that he could keep his job, I hit the ceiling. I was furious. The fact that he would even think such a thing was more than I could take. I did the only thing I could think of. I gave him a smart answer. That's what got me in trouble. What the hell did you say? Nadine asked. I said that I gave his boss a BJ so that he would give him his job back. Nadine took a sip of the hot coffee. Wow, I am amazed that he didn't kill you right then and there. You must be a real blonde because that was the stupidest thing any woman ever said to Rayburn Watley. Really stupid. Jolynn didn't respond. What happened that caused Rayburn to get fired in the first place? Nadine asked. I was acting like a college co-ed at a frat party all night. I could tell that Rayburn was getting upset with me, but I was having so much fun I didn't want to stop. I was having one last dance with Rayburn's boss, Mr. Cordetti, when things finally got out of hand. Cordetti put both of his hands on my back. I was telling him to remove them right away, or I was going to kick him so hard he wouldn't walk for a week. I didn't want to make a scene. Well, I was too late. Before we knew it, Rayburn threw a beer bottle at Cordetti and hit him in the back of his shoulder. I think he was aiming for his head. Now that sounds like my brother, Nadine answered. One thing led to another, and in a fit of anger, Cordetti fired Rayburn on the spot. Rayburn stormed out before things cooled down. I talked to Mr. Cordetti for about 10 minutes, and he admitted it was a bad move on his part, and that Rayburn was justified in what he did. He said he could still keep his job, and he apologized to me. He also told me to apologize to Rayburn for him. I never got the chance. So you never had intimacy with this Cordetti guy? Nadine asked. Hell no. There is no way I would ever think about cheating on Rayburn. Why did you say that you did? Nadine questioned. Because I was angry. He just accused me of being a cheating woman. I won't take that stuff from anyone, including him. Before I knew it, my mouth was throwing out all that crap, and there was no way to take it back. The only person that got screwed that night was me. I did it to myself. Me and my big mouth. Jolynn collected the empty cups. She seemed to be crying, or at least her eyes had teared up. What are you going to do now? Nadine asked. I don't know. Do you have any suggestions? You seem to know a hell of a lot more about Rayburn than I do. Nadine asked, Did you know that he was wanted by the law in 2 states? Jolynn answered, What? No, I didn't know that. What the hell did he do? Damn, girl, that's a dumb question, Nadine replied. What did he do to Benny Cordetti yesterday morning? Oh, God. No, Jolynn said, her voice trembling. Cordetti isn't expected to get out of the hospital for at least 3 weeks. That is the Rayburn that we all love and adore, Nadine stated with a hint of sarcasm. Both women sat silently for a few moments. Jolynn broke the silence. He can't come back here, can he? Nope, Nadine replied bluntly. He can't stay there either, Jolynn asked. That's right, Nadine confirmed. Jolynn sighed heavily. What the hell are we going to do? Nadine raised an eyebrow. What do you mean, we? You are not one of Rayburn's favorite people right now. Oh, crap, Jolynn muttered. He doesn't know the truth. There is no way that he can know what really happened. Damn, I am screwed again. Look, Jolynn, Nadine said firmly. It has been very interesting meeting you. I enjoyed the lunch and the conversation, but right now I have to get the kids' stuff and get back on the road. Jolynn's voice turned pleading. Can I come with you? Hell no, Nadine shot back. Are you trying to get me killed? Can I have your phone number? Jolynn asked hopefully. Nadine nodded. I can handle that, but don't expect me to take sides here. Rayburn is my brother. Blood comes first. Jolynn hesitated before saying, We have some money in the bank that we were saving to buy a house. Does Rayburn need money? I can get it out for him. He is fine, Nadine reassured her. He is with his family. He doesn't need anything. Hold on to that money. You might need it. 2 hours later, Nadine was on the road headed south. She would be home in time for supper. There was a big family gathering that evening. Nadine told Rayburn what Jolynn had told her, but he wasn't buying it. Until she could prove otherwise, he was going to assume that what she said first, in the heat of anger, was the truth. The story that she told Nadine was a contrived cover-up. The big problem seemed to be what he was going to do next. He couldn't chance staying where he was, and he couldn't go back to Pennsylvania. Fletcher had a friend who owned a company that built yuppie log cabins in Winchester, Tennessee. A quick phone call and one of the problems was solved. Garnett was going to keep Brian and Tyson until Rayburn could find a place to live. Garnett made great grits. Nadine was going to bring them down and help Rayburn set up the house and find some sort of sitter for the boys while Rayburn worked. Rayburn wasn't planning on leaving until Monday morning, so he had a full weekend to enjoy with his family. Although Rayburn had tried his best to get home without anybody finding out, it didn't work. Someone recognized him, and it didn't take long for the word to get around. It never did seem to reach the ears of the law, but it did get the interest of a few other people. Rayburn Whatley had become a legend in the area. All of the want-to-be thugs could get a quick reputation if they took down Rayburn. It was like the dime Western novels about the young gunslingers challenging the older, experienced ones. Only there were no six-shooters involved this time. To make matters worse, Jolynn Whatley had been driving all day to find her husband and get him straightened out. The longer she drove, the madder she got. By the time she reached Rockingham County, she was royally pissed. The Whatley family was settled in with plenty of cold beer and 2 grills loaded with ribs and burgers. The plan was to stay low profile and enjoy the weekend. Everything was fine until the first phone call. Fletcher took the phone call. He was laughing when he hung up and naturally got everyone's attention. "Damn it, Fletch! What the hell is so funny?" Nadine was the first to jump in. He giggled a little before speaking. "Danny down at the Grist Mill bar said that an angry blonde Spitfire was just down there demanding to know where she could find Rayburn Whatley. It appears that she is hitting all of the bars trying to find her husband, and she is being very vocal about it. He said that it sounded like she was being obnoxious on purpose just to bait you." "Nadine, does that sound like something that my wife would do?" Nadine couldn't help but laugh. "Damn right. She is going to raise a fuss until she finds you. I think the woman is in love, Rayburn." "I think she is crazy. You know very well that the law is going to get wind of this, and then we will have problems." The tone of the conversation around the table was mixed, but almost everybody thought that it was funny. That is, until the next phone call. They all watched Fletcher until he got done, and then waited for him to tell them what was going on. "Rayburn, do you remember a guy called R.B. Griffith from over in Page County?" "Yeah, a thug guy that lived just east of Luray." "Well, my good brother, he is looking for you also, and it looks like sometime tonight your wife and R.B. Griffith are bound to end up at the same place at the same time." The room went silent for a moment. Rayburn finally stood up and set his long neck on the table. "You all have to excuse me for a few minutes while I go find my loving wife." Now Fletcher and Grayson did not want to miss any of what was going to be going on, but Rayburn motioned for them to sit. He did, however, indicate that he wanted Nadine with him. He saw Jolynn's car in front of Wet Willie's. He parked in the back, and he and Nadine entered the side door. It was a Saturday night at a country honky-tonk, but you could have heard a pin drop, except for the 2 people having words in the middle of the dance floor. Jolynn was standing nose to nose with R.B. Griffith. Of course, he had to stoop over some to even things up. R.G. Griffith was big, and he was also fat. The extra weight could be an advantage or a disadvantage, depending on how you look at it. Rayburn and Nadine slowly moved closer. Everybody was transfixed on the couple, waiting for something to happen. "You lay one finger on my husband, you miserable jerk, and I will rip your balls off and feed them to my dog." Rayburn laughed to himself because they didn't even have a dog. "I'll tell you what, little lady, after I get done with the skinny runt you call a husband, I'll come back and show what a real man is like." It was like 2 kids in a schoolyard. They kept at it for over a minute. It was obvious that Jolynn was not the least bit afraid of the jerk, but it would have to end eventually. Rayburn inched a little closer, and Nadine stayed right with him. RB leaned closer to Jolynn and grinned as he whispered something to her. Big mistake. Jolynn gave him a headbutt that was just hard enough to cause him to turn his head, close his eyes, and pinch the bridge of his nose. It was not hard enough to hurt him, but it was annoying and embarrassing. Before opening his eyes, he reached out and grabbed for what he thought was Jolynn's blouse. A second later, he realized that he had a hold of Rayburn's shirt. The look of surprise on his face was immediately followed by a satisfied grin. The second headbutt was a lot harder than the first one. R.B. Griffith was on one knee, and the first real blow had not yet been struck. The grin was gone, and the blood was flowing. Nadine took Jolynn aside as Rayburn placed a steel-toed boot directly on R.B.'s left kneecap and then started the pounding. It was all over in less than a minute. Rayburn was not able to do much damage to R.B.'s ribs or torso because of all the body fat, but there were plenty of other areas to get his attention. He stopped pummeling his adversary only when somebody announced that the sheriff had just arrived. Rayburn went out the side door as the officers came in the front. The confusion in the room made things difficult for the law enforcement professionals, and he had no trouble getting away. Nadine took Jolynn home with her, but she took the long way. She had no idea what Rayburn's intentions were, but she didn't want to rush him. By the time they got to the house, Rayburn had gotten his stuff and was on the way to Tennessee. Jolynn was furious. Nadine thought the whole thing was funny as hell. It took Jolynn a couple of weeks to figure out that Rayburn was not coming back. A couple of weeks more, and she had a good idea where he was. One morning, she just disappeared. Nadine called Rayburn and let him know that she was on her way and in a bad mood. Jolynn had dropped the boys off at Fletcher and Garnett's place when she left. Rayburn and Grayson were trying to keep a low profile while they were staying in Winchester. They didn't become hermits or anything like that, but they did tone things down a bit. Nadine showed up a couple of days after she called. No one knew anything about Jolynn. While Rayburn and Grayson were working, Nadine visited all of the local clubs and honky-tonks to see if Jolynn had been around. It had been several weeks since she left. I found her. Nadine seemed quite pleased with herself. Do you want to let us in on it? Rayburn seemed more perturbed than pleased. She is staying at a trailer park near Belvedere with a biker named Osman. It appears that they have become quite attached. She is very open about the fact that she is here looking for you. She bops around a lot, but their favorite place is a bar called the Monkey Barn. Osman works at a muscle gym in downtown Winchester as a trainer. He considers himself to be a badass and a biker, although he is not affiliated. That's nice to know, but what am I supposed to do now? Brother, you are going to have to talk to her sometime. You might as well do it now. Grayson plopped 3 long necks down on the table. Rayburn, Grayson, and Nadine sat over to the side. The Monkey Barn wasn't that big, but it had a good crowd. They were not trying to hide, and it worked out for them. Jolynn showed up with a big guy that had to be Osman. He was big, and he was solid. No beer belly on this guy. She was all over him, which tended to make Rayburn angry. After 10 minutes, she finally noticed him, and her attention to Osman picked up. Now that she knew he was here, she was doing it to aggravate him. It worked. Jolynn stopped by the bar and grabbed 3 beers. Osman just stood across the room and watched as she walked over. Well, if it isn't my husband and his loving family, surprise finding you here. She placed a beer down in front of each of them. What do you want, Jolynn? Why do you insist on following me when you know that I don't want you? He asked. You know what the hell I want? I am your wife. I want us back together, you, me, and the kids. That is what I want. If that was true, then what the hell are you doing with that wannabe biker over there? He asked. He is not a wannabe. He is a real man. I needed a place to stay while I was looking for you, and he had a room available, she answered. I assume that you are also sharing his bed? Rayburn phased that as a question. "That's none of your damn business. If you were doing your job as a husband, none of this would be necessary." Nobody said anything for a few seconds. "How are my kids, Nadine? Is Garnet still taking care of them for me?" There was still no response in any fashion. Finally, she got angry and walked back to her new friend. Things quieted down for a while. They decided to finish their beers and leave. They saw everything they wanted to see. That was when everything turned to hell. As they got out of their chairs, Rayburn seemed to stumble. He was a bit groggy and was having a hard time walking or even standing. Nadine and Grayson hadn't noticed. He was still mobile, but not like his normal self. They never made it to the door. Osmond bumped into Rayburn as he walked by, and the next thing they knew, he was beating on him. Nadine and Grayson were totally confused. This had never happened before. Rayburn never fought back. Osmond beat him until he fell and then started kicking him. Finally, Nadine jumped into the fray to protect her brother. Nadine looked over and saw Jolynn smiling. Jolynn was actually laughing as she and Osmond scooted out the door. Grayson insisted that the hospital run a complete tox screen on his brother. There was no doubt that he had been drugged, and the police were immediately notified. The damages were pretty serious, and Rayburn spent 5 days in the hospital. The police never found Osmond or Jolynn. Rayburn and Nadine returned to West Virginia so that he could recover. For some reason, local law enforcement on both sides of the state line did not bother him. Exercise had never been a part of Rayburn's life. His zero body fat and sinewy body came naturally, augmented by hard work. Things had changed now. Nadine quickly learned that therapy and exercise were necessary for Rayburn's recovery, and she made sure that he got both. Luckily, there were no serious problems. After several months, he was back to normal, or even better. He was ready to return to Winchester when they got the call. "Grayson, what is going on, brother?" "Just a small bit of news that I thought that you might be interested in. It seems that Osmond and your wife left for Sturgis this morning. They are on his bike, so I figure it would take about 3 days." "Were they there in Winchester?" he asked. "No. After the problem at the monkey barn, they moved down to Chattanooga. That is why we couldn't find them. He was bragging to a few old friends here in town, and that is how I found out about their trip." "What the hell was he bragging about?" he asked. "The beatdown. He is claiming that he is the only guy that was ever able to take Rayburn Watley." "Well, that sucks. It gets worse. He is also claiming that he took your wife," Grayson replied. Nadine chimed in about that time. "I'll have the truck packed and ready in an hour. Rayburn, go drop the boys off at Garnet's and be back here in 10 minutes, no more. We got a long trip ahead of us." It took them exactly 24 hours to cover the 1,600 miles. Nadine was able to get a room in Deadwood. That was close enough to what they needed to do. You just can't compete with a crowd of 500,000 people. Most of the first day was spent sleeping and refueling their bodies. They had no idea where to start looking or how to go about it. Since most of the town was blocked off from all traffic except motorcycles, they ended up having to walk almost everywhere. Nadine thought it was a bit of fun, but it just angered Rayburn off. They spent 10 hours looking the first day and had no luck. The second day started no better. They decided to split up and keep in touch with their cell phones. It was about 4 in the afternoon when he found the Osmond. He and Jolynn were partying heavily with a rowdy bunch in the middle of a packed beer hall. He called Nadine and told her where he was. Rayburn watched his wife and her new man for about 10 minutes and then slowly worked his way through the crowd. If he tried to start something inside, it would be quickly stopped. He had to get him outside, where there might be a chance. He got within 10 feet of their table when Jolynn saw him. "Oh, hell!" Their table mates all turned around to look when she yelled. Rayburn wasn't that big and wasn't that nasty looking, but he did get everyone's attention. Osmond knocked over his chair, trying to get up. He started pushing and shoving through the crowd, trying to get to the door. He had at least 30 feet to go. Jolynn crouched down and tried to make herself appear invisible. It didn't work. Rayburn followed but didn't rush. Osmond gave one last look over his shoulder and then darted out the door. He never heard the siren or the squeal of brakes from the EMT vehicle when it hit him. Ambulances and fire trucks were the only exceptions to the traffic rules. Nadine arrived just in time to see him get creamed. There was quite a commotion going on by now, and it didn't take long for Jolynn to end up kneeling beside her escort. The EMT people were right on the problem, but she was still looking around the crowd for Rayburn. Then she noticed Nadine right by her side. She was forced to make a choice, so in the confusion, she slipped away through the crowd. Nadine followed her as she disappeared into the RV/bus parking area. Osmond got a square hit from the EMT vehicle and ended up with 2 broken legs. Rayburn quietly watched as the EMT crew loaded Osmond in the back of the vehicle with their other patient. He was amazed that they could get 2 stretchers in it at one time. It was a long drive to get here, and he didn't even get one shot in. 10 minutes later, Nadine returned. "Did you lose her?" he asked. "Nope," she answered. "Are you going to tell me what is going on?" "Not until I have a cold beer." She was sort of giggling as they walked into the beer tent. Nadine was not a giggle type of girl, so it seemed a bit odd. "Your wife was sort of darting all around in the parking area, trying to get someone to let her in one of the vehicles. Most of them were empty. She finally found a couple of guys who must have agreed to let her hide in their bus. I waved at one of them and he came over with a grin on his face. However, it was not what he expected. My Spanish sucked, but I ended up giving him $800 if he agreed to take Jolynn with them when they left." Nadine finished half of the long neck in one swig. "Where were they going?" he asked. "Don't know. Didn't ask. But the logo on the side of the bus said Diablos de Juarez." We both sort of chuckled at that. "By the way, you owe me $800. When we got back, there was a big red Freightliner parked at the motel. Nadine had kept Roger updated on our location, but had not expected him to show up. I left Nadine and Roger to use the room, and I found the Deadwood Legends Steakhouse. I ordered a big ribeye but couldn't finish it. My sister and her husband were still in the room when I got back, so I made myself comfortable in the pickup and tried to catch a few winks. He didn't seem too afraid of her. The tapping on the truck window woke me from a light nap. I figured Nadine and Roger were done, but I was wrong. It was a 20-some-year-old girl dressed like a wannabe biker chick. "I'm not interested. Go to the truck stop about a quarter mile down the road." "I am not a hooker, damn it. I just need to ask you a question." I think I angered her off. "What?" "I see that you got Virginia plates on your truck. Are you going back there?" "Yeah. I need a ride to Harrisonburg." I groaned a bit and then got out of the truck. I gestured toward the motel dining room and started walking. She picked up her backpack and followed me. "Do you want some coffee?" I got a nod, but nothing more. When the waitress started to approach the table, she leaned over and whispered, "Could I get a burger also?" I added a large plate of fries to the order and then introduced myself. "My name is Rayburn. What's yours?" "Wanda. Wanda Stiles." "How did you get here, Wanda?" he asked. "One of the guys that I worked with convinced me that we would have a great time here at the rally. He might be having a great time, but I am not. 2 days on the back of a Goldwing might sound like fun to some people, but not me. He didn't even get a motel room. I refused to spend one more night in a camping tent." "That's it?" I asked. "No. The SOB offered to share me with some of his new biker buddies. That is when I decided that I had to get out of here." Wanda ate the burger like she hadn't eaten in days. She did a pretty good job on the fries also. She wasn't skinny, and she wasn't fat, more like a corn-fed farm girl. About that time, Nadine and Roger walked in. I made the introductions. "Oh, hell, I am sorry," Wanda said. "I thought that you were traveling alone." "He is now," Nadine blasted as she waved over the waitress. "Rayburn, I am going to ride back with Roger if you don't mind. In fact, I am going to ride back with him if you do mind." She thought that was funny. Roger just smiled. So another chapter in the life of Rayburn Whatley ends. Nadine and Roger didn't get back to West Virginia for another 3 weeks. The Osmonds spent 4 weeks at the hospital in Rapid City. His Harley disappeared while he was there. Nobody heard from Jolynn again. Things between Wanda and Rayburn improved during their trip home and took a sudden jump while they were passing through Indiana, and Wanda found out his last name. Rayburn Watley was and still is a name to reckon with in Virginia. Greta is teaching Wanda how to make grits. And so, we've reached the end of today's story. Was it what you expected, or did it take a twist you didn't see coming? I'm curious to hear your thoughts. Share them in the comments below, and let's get a conversation going. If this story kept you hooked, make sure to hit that like button. And if you're new here or just haven't subscribed yet, now's the perfect time to join our community. I bring you fresh, captivating stories every day, so click that subscribe button and turn on notifications so you never miss out. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.